Hey everybody, Adam Plisick, CEO of Skilly here. A couple of quick updates, wanted to get on your radar. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you can see it kind of live with me. Just a quick plug to remind everybody that you don't have to enter in answers unless you feel like your Skilly is not giving exactly the response you'd like them to give. That's where we come in and intervene here. Some of the other quick things just to kind of keep in mind is you have the ability to check out your answer score and to understand how new or aging any answer is. After 90 days, you're gonna see this flash red, first yellow and then orange and of course red, and let you know that it might be time to just get in here and edit or add an additional answer. But for now, I'm gonna head over to my AI agent and I'm gonna go to Conversations. You're gonna notice that I have my normal conversation. In this case, how does Skilly actually handle real sales questions? Well, shrinking this left now because I don't really need it, I'm gonna point your attention over here to my annotation bar. Annotations are wonderful because they allow us to pick green for good, yellow for needs improvement, and red for wrong. This way, we know exactly how to tell our parent guide that looks at all of your individual Skilly feedback, how to improve and personalize and ultimately fine-tune your individual team's model. This is something that happens every week on Fridays when our agent goes through and reads all the feedback that you give it. Now, you probably are familiar about how you could identify something in green, ultimately then leaving it as accurate. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and add a little feedback. If not, you can just simply save that feedback. But what's also really lots of fun is that we now have the ability to give question annotations. And so when I click on the question annotation, you're gonna notice, right, that I get a plus sign here on top of any question that I've inputted with an agent. Now, when I click on the plus sign, I can either add the question to the repository, simply pulling this up, obviously tagging, we'll get more on that in just a second, and then deciding if this is a frequent question, how important it is. A lot of this is gonna calculate to the priority, so the higher the importance, the higher likelihood it is to be prioritized. And again, we're gonna have the opportunity to add question tags as well as overall conversation tags. Now, if I go back to my plus sign and I wanted to go ahead and actually add this question and generate answer, you're gonna see a slightly different format here where I'm still having the question inputs, frequency and importance are prevalent, as well as tagging the question. What you're gonna also notice though is that I can add an answer manually, recording videos, audio, screen, or any type of rich text, or of course attachments like PDFs. I can also go ahead and bug Skilly, and she's gonna go ahead, just like she otherwise would, use our foundational model, look at all the other context you have that you've hidden away from some of those public and kind of grabby LLMs, and it's gonna come up with an idea, an answer, and some inspiration that ultimately you'll be able to look at. Now, this is wonderful because now not only can we tag and add questions dynamically, continue to red, yellow, and green our conversations, but we also have the ability to actually add tags. Now, tag management is gonna be available via your profile. Profile will go to tags management. And what you're gonna notice here is I have the ability to add themes, categorized or uncategorized tags. So I might add a theme that's called sales team. These are questions that I think are all gonna be asked by someone who's gonna deploy this as the sales team. And I might ask something here or put a tag in here that says, case studies. Now, what this allows me to do is set across my entire org a limited number of themes and categories that I'll go back to my questions here in just a second and show you how to annotate. If for any reason these tags don't belong in a specific theme, you can always go ahead and keep them here in uncategorized. So quickly going back to where I was in terms of conversations, I can go ahead back to my real customers. Now I have the ability as I go ahead and tag this particular question. I can actually search for different types of themes and then ultimately tags. So this allows me to annotate anything and everything I'm doing, and that's where we're just starting. Because once you've annotated pieces here, categorical or otherwise, not only has our agent come around and actually picked up this feedback every Friday, but if you head over to your filters, you're gonna notice if you scroll the whole way down, we can now create a CSV. These CSVs allow you to choose any degree of filtering. Maybe it was the things that were SMS to your guide, maybe it's part of your network chats. When someone left external feedback or contact info, of course, date ranges and session duration CTAs. Can't go anywhere without our AI-generated topics, of course, and tags, including things like the labels of how they represented themselves, like accurate, or any of the ones we added ultimately in, like sales or social proof or case studies. Once I've selected all these, in this case, I'm going to go down to pricing, or maybe I'm going to do schedule with Kit on Calendly or share our thoughts. As I selected any CTAs, I can go ahead and do that. I can then take these results, right? And I can create a CSV report where you can see that I have the date, the time, the unique identifier of the conversation. This is a paraphrase summary. If there was an external user involved, more on that in just a second, as well if they left us an email, all the way down here, conversation tags, question annotation, question category, question subcategory, etc. Now, if you'd like, we can also make it possible for you to export all of the conversations in the exact same way that you see now. Now, going back to this, you saw something that had email, and I just want to remind everybody, as you can see here, as I scroll down, a handful of these conversations were in fact anonymous. But as consumers begin to register on the more than 5,600 Skillys that are out there, and they've given you permission, if not, go ahead and check our privacy pyramid, understanding exactly how we have a dual opt-in, you'll actually start to see that individual's name appear next to the conversation, and you'll be able to understand then exactly if they've left an email or a phone, how to get in touch. Eventually, this will allow you, if you so like, to synchronize these identified privacy-safe conversations sync seamlessly with your CRM. So these are just a couple of the really fun things that are happening here. Lots and odds and ends are coming together, including a new way and a simplified form, as we already saw, to add questions. Lots of new and exciting things in terms of agent customizations, but the last one I want to show you is really in the customize section. And as we scroll all the way down, right, you see Skilly URLs, and you see all sorts of wonderful tracking dynamics. You're also going to find yourself in a place in colors and fonts where you have now a custom image. Why this is so critical is because not only can you add GIFs, keeping in mind that it'll default to a much smaller version to be accessible, but as we go to our friends, let's say at the Westmoreland Cultural Trust, you can see how powerful and how robust these custom Skillys are. You can also take a look at, let's say, talk about Point Park. You can see Dot, or Dorothy here, again, available. Wanted to encourage you to put a custom image in here. In just a couple of weeks, maybe even days, we're gonna be actually enlarging the small chat bubbles in order to help you attract more attention. The other thing and final thing I wanted to show you today, which is hot off the press, let's go ahead and look at the Pitt Online version. What you're gonna notice is that not only is this an embedded search box, but you also have now the ability to have floating prompt circles. So if I go ahead and say, well, let's say something like what programs are available, you'll notice that this prompt key actually initiates the chat. Someone can expand this to the full view if they so like. You can see here that it's going to continue sort of orienting you along the way, ultimately allowing you to see all of the programs and the various goals. And as always, updating this allows you to see the suggested next questions that you might want to ask, including things like, what are the admissions for graduate programs? Anyways, thank you for the patience as we've been cooking up some really good stuff. One small note, if you've made it this far, is that next week we'll be releasing our brand new chat experience, including integrated rich media. Can't wait to hear your feedback about that or anything else that we covered today. Thank you once again for all of the feedback you've given so far. We can't wait to get more of it. And to the credit of everyone who's sort of inspired features, thank you one extra time. Have a wonderful day.